Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish video. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish review, I'll be reviewing a Sarah Jane Smith comeback. Yes, I thought I'd review this with obviously the light of season 14 being released on Blu-ray and the beautiful documentary what features on it, with it being a tribute to Elizabeth Sladen. It kind of put me in the mood for more Sarah Jane Smith, so I thought I'd look at Big Finish's spin-off featuring Sarah Jane Smith. Now the Sarah Jane Smith spin-off I feel is kind of like a hidden sort of treasure chest in the Big Finish catalogue. It's kind of a spin-off what doesn't really get talked about. People talk about Jago and Lightfoot, Gallifrey, Dalek Empire, Cyberman, Bernie Summerfield, but the Sarah Jane Smith audios are kind of sort of forgotten, and I feel like there's something quite sort of sacred about these audios because it's Elizabeth Sladen playing Sarah Jane Smith, because obviously dear old Tom Baker wasn't playing the Fourth Doctor on Big Finish, and obviously Big Finish wanted to use Sarah Jane Smith. So they give her own spin-off. The other companions like Leela, Romana and K9, they had Gallifrey, and Sarah Jane Smith got her own spin-off. So that's the way Big Finish got round of using the Fourth Doctor and companions, because obviously this was released before the Companion Chronicles were released back in 2007. And, this spin-off ran for 2 series, and it was cut short because obviously the Sarah Jane Adventures kicked off, leading to, that replaced this spin-off, really. So without further ado, let's look at the presentation for this release, and then we'll go into my thoughts on this story. So taking a look at the cover art for this release, we have Elizabeth Sladen, we have Sarah Jane there with this nice sort of creepy background of a forest with a skull, a sort of well there on the moon and this forest. Sarah Jane comeback Big Finish. The side of the release. And the back of the release. If you want to know more about this story, then do feel free to pause. And what's quite a nice touch is it's done like a newspaper report, which is very good because obviously Sarah Jane's a journalist, and the total running time for this release being 75 minutes. So taking a look at the leaflet there, we have the author's notes by Terrance Dicks, we have production credits for the actual release itself, then we have the cast photo of the people involved within this actual release there, which is very nice because it's one of the early Big Finish releases. Then we have the next instalment within the actual series, the Teo Connection, and an advertisement for Gallifrey. And then we have the cast list on the back and the disc art for this release. Sarah Jane Smith comeback. Now if you're going in thinking that this is going to be a light fluffy listen and expecting this to be something like the Sarah Jane Adventures, well, you best get that idea out of your head, as this is an early Big Finish release, and I guess the early Big Finish stories have a bit more of a bite and they're a bit more grittier, with the odd swear word, with this having some quite grim moments in it as well. So in a way you can see this sort of being the bridge between K9 and Company and the Sarah Jane Adventures. So what do I think of the actual story itself? Well, it's written by Terrance Dicks, so you know that you're going to get a good solid story. And I did enjoy it, with this being a good grounded story setting up the characters and the arc for the series. So we start the story with Sarah mourning her Aunt Lavinia, and where Brendan is with him being in San Francisco, which is a nice little touch, because obviously it sort of explains what happened to the characters after K9 and Company, because those characters featured within it. But you do wonder where K9 is. So back to the story now. Sarah bumps into this mysterious man called Mr. Harris, and this woman claiming that this is the beginning of the end for Sarah Jane Smith. Now the theme music is pretty interesting, with this being slightly funky with this sort of mysterious edge to it. So I guess that kind of fits Sarah Jane rather well, with this sort of investigating feel to it, with sort of a mystery edge to it. But it's very funky indeed. So we find out that Sarah had her own TV show. Doing investigations for Planet 33, when it all went horribly wrong for her, and this sort of company. So we learn about this sort of mysterious company, what's been involved. We wonder what's happened between Sarah and this mysterious company, as this mysterious company is destroyed sort of Sarah's reputation, with Sarah going into hiding, finding that she's changed her identity and always constantly on the move. With the help from her friend Natalie, who helps her sort of change her identity. So we see Sarah work in a bank when a robbery happens, when her real identity has been blown, with her going by the name of Marie Samuels. This is when she bumps into her sidekick for the series, the lovable rogue Josh. So you wonder, why is Josh looking for Sarah, and why is the bank linked to Mr. Harris? So we get teases that there is sort of financial support to this sort of BioGuard and Operation Halter, which I guess we'll see how that plays in the grand scheme of the series. Why Sarah was working in the bank, we have Sarah and Josh investigating Mr. Hedges, which leads to a very horrifying grim moment, which leads them to further investigate this sleepy English village of Klutz Coombe, and this is when the story goes a bit K9 and Company, sort of exploring this sort of creepy goings on in this village, And I feel like this sort of section of the story creates a great atmosphere because it's all at night for the most part of it. And what creature lurks at the bottom of the well, leading to a grim revelation, with the village having a dark secret leading to a very sort of ethical argument. But I feel that this is where my main criticism lies, is that the story just wraps up all of a sudden. Considering that the runtime for this being 75 minutes, the resolution is incredibly quick, but the story still leaves many questions, such as the company and Mr. Harris. What involvement do they have in the grand scheme of this series? So moving on to characters now, Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. Now, Elizabeth Sladen does a marvellous job slipping back into the role of Sarah Jane, and I think that this is Sarah Jane's second Big Finish she did. I think she appeared in a Bernie Summerfield story. And what I like about this story is we see Sarah a bit more vulnerable, her mourning her aunt and being on the run and being paranoid. So this gives Elizabeth Sladen something different to play with. We see her investigating skills, we see a technique on how she investigates and how resourceful she is. But she's also quite frustrated on what's going on, and she has a great speech about life. John Townsend, played by Jeremy James, a good performance as the lovable rogue with a troublesome past, and very much acts as sort of the comic relief of the story, of him being quite cheeky and quite courageous and quite direct and very supportive of Sarah, and he really does shine in sort of the latter half of the story. Natalie, played by Sadie Miller, Elizabeth Sladen's daughter, and I feel like she gives a really good performance as, she's a person who is protecting Sarah, making sure the company can't find her. She's quite wary of new people Sarah meets in case they blow her cover and compromise her. She's bright, intelligent, and she works for Planet 33 and hopes that Sarah can someday help her have her own TV company and work for her. So yeah, I feel like Natalie's a really lovable character within this story. Mr. Harris, played by Robin Bowerman, a solid performance playing this mysterious character, with us getting a glimpse with how powerful he is, and he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He's quite snotty and quite an uppity character. So what are my overall thoughts on Sarah Jane Smith comeback? Is it a glorious return for Sarah Jane? Well, I would say it is an enjoyable listen. It does what a first episode should, with us catching up with where Sarah Jane is within her life. It introduces the supporting cast of the series very well. It sets up the arc for the series incredibly well, with it being full of great mystery, making it perfect for Sarah Jane and her team to investigate. You can see ideas where sort of Russell D Davies sort of took ideas for the Sarah Jane adventures, with Ethel, the car, and Sarah having a team, helping her out. But I do feel that the story does suffer the same problem what early Big Finish spin-offs have, and that is the runtime being 75 minutes. It's quite an awkward time frame, really, when you think that most spin-offs now, or episodes of Big Finish, are about an hour long now. So I guess you can condense more in the hour format, and it just makes it flow a bit better. Because this story does lead to sort of the odd moment being quite padded out. And one thing I found a little bit jarring is how it sort of switched from the start of the story to like the sort of Sarah Jane working in the bank. I guess that kind of reflects Sarah Jane's life sort of jumping all over the place, and being quite jarring, but she can never really stay still. And I guess as well the resolution was a little bit wrapped up too quickly for my liking, really. I feel like it was just over in a second. But other than that, I think that it is a good solid story. It does exactly what an episode 1 should do. It sets up the characters, the arc, it's got full of a great mystery to it, a lovely atmosphere, especially the latter half, and it definitely does have a different feel to what we expect Sarah Jane to have. It's a bit more nitty gritty with certain things. It does have a few of its darker moments, especially some of the revelations revealed within the actual story. So it definitely doesn't feel like the Sarah Jane what we all know and love in a way, because she does have the odd swear word within it. So it does have a very different feel to what we probably expect from Sarah Jane, but at the core of it you still have the wonderful character what we all know and love, really. So I think that this is an interesting spin-off. I'm definitely intrigued to see where this sort of series goes. I'm interested to see how this mystery is going to unfold throughout the series. I may review the other episodes, or I might just do an overview of the series and go from there. So if you want individual reviews, and comment down below and I'll review the stories individually. If not, I'll probably just overview the series as one thing, just do it in one video, and that'll be Sarah Jane. So yeah, I think that this is a good story. I did enjoy it for the most part, but it does suffer, pacing issues a little bit, but I guess that's down to the runtime of the story. So I'm going to give this story overall, I think I'm going to give it I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think that it has its moments where it really shines, but it does suffer, you know, some slight faults like padding and the resolution just being wrapped up very all of a sudden, really. So I feel like it is a good story, and it definitely sets things up and definitely makes me want to listen to where this series goes. So I feel like it ticks all those boxes nicely, really. So yeah, that concludes my review of Sarah Jane Smith Comeback, and I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.